It started with laughter. Thursday morning, bright lights. Coffee cups clinked on glass. Jennifer Lawrence smiled at the audience, hair done just enough to look undone. A dark navy blazer over a vintage t-shirt. She had done this kind of press 100 times. Promotion, polite applause. Tell a funny story, sell the movie, get out. Her film was small, personal, about women pushed to the edge by a corrupt justice system. No studios, no explosions. Just raw emotion and one brave director herself. Oh, she thought it would be easy. The View had changed over the years, once a talk show, now something more dangerous. Segments didn't just entertain, they provoked. And this morning, producers wanted fire. Ratings had dipped. Socials were flat. And when Joy Behar got the morning no poke, the beer, she knew exactly what that meant. The first 10 minutes were smooth. Jennifer joked about filming and freezing. Whether the audience laughed? She teased a story about her dog sneaking into the editing booth. Cameras panned to smiling faces. Even Whoopi nodded along. But then Joy leaned forward. Her red-rimmed glasses slid halfway down her nose. Her voice dipped smooth and sharp like a hidden blade. "Jennifer," she said, "you talk a lot about female power in this film. Systemic betrayal, abuse of power. Women pushed down. I think that's great. But don't you think it's a little ironic?" Jennifer blinked. "Ironic. You've made millions, awards, influence. You're part of the very system you're criticizing." Joy gave a tight smile. "Some might say it's a bit rich." The studio air changed. People sat straighter. The camera guy hesitated before zooming in. Jennifer smiled, but not with her eyes. "I'm criticizing abuse of power, not success. And I think someone with a platform should speak about it." Joy didn't blink. "Even if you were funded by people connected to that system." Silence. The room froze. Producers in the back started whispering. The control booth lights flickered. Jennifer's mouth opened, but nothing came. She looked toward Whoopi, then back to Joy. "What are you talking about?" Joy folded her hands. "Your film's lead investor. A hedge fund with deep ties to a private intelligence firm. You didn't know?" Jennifer's heartbeat thundered in her ears. She had heard rumors. Yes, anonymous donors, quick approval. But she'd told herself it didn't matter. The story was hers. The message was pure. "I didn't choose them," she said. Her voice was tight now. They came in after filming started. Joy smiled again, still. "It's strange how your film lines up with certain narratives, certain agendas." Jennifer stared at her. "What agendas?" "That America is falling apart. That its institutions can't be trusted. That power is always corrupt." Jennifer leaned forward. "Maybe people say that because it's true." A long pause. Live TV, but nobody breathed. Joy's voice was lower now, almost soft. "Did you know your film references an actual event? A classified one? A sealed case from 2017. Civilian disappearance. Government cover-up." Jennifer went pale. Her eyes darted to the camera. "That was fictional." Joy just tilted her head. "Was it?" Something behind Jennifer cracked. Not on set inside her. She stood up. Her chair scraped loudly across the floor. "I won't be part of this," she said. "Not like this." Whoopi called her name, but Jennifer was already walking. Off the set, past the audience, past the lights, into the hall. She didn't stop for anyone. The camera kept rolling, but it didn't follow. It just held on the empty seat. Online, the clip hit 4 million views in 2 hours. Twitter split in half. Jennifer exposed. Behar crosses the line. Hashtags bloomed like wildfire. In a quiet government surveillance room, somewhere beneath Virginia, a man with gray stubble leaned over a screen. He rewound the moment Jennifer stood, froze the frame, zoomed in on her face. Not angry, not confused, just knowing. Knows, he whispered, and he pressed a red button. The fallout the morning after the walkout, the world hadn't moved on. Every major outlet had Jennifer Lawrence's name in red banners. CNN called it a cultural moment. Fox News spun it as Hollywood meltdown meets deep state paranoia. Reddit threads analyzed every blink, every breath she took before storming off. TikToks replayed Joy Behar's smirk on a loop, soundtracked by dramatic music and conspiracy captions. But behind the noise, something real was moving. In a windowless room inside the Department of Homeland Security, a task force was assembled, under urgent classification. Not because a celebrity had walked off a talk show, but because she had spoken about something she wasn't supposed to know. A name had surfaced. The collapse protocol? Did she mention it directly? A tired-looking official asked. No, the analyst replied, tapping on a keyboard. But she referenced a sealed event from 2017, civilian disappearance in Moldova, tied to an illegal Black Ops site. It matches an operation buried under Protocol D, which later became Collapse. Jesus Christ, the man whispered. Jennifer's walkout wasn't a media storm. It was a breach. In Los Angeles, Jennifer's publicist, a veteran fixer named Alice Kwan, was dodging calls. She'd handled scandals, accidents, divorces, but nothing like this. Her phone wouldn't stop vibrating. News requests, rumors, legal threats. Someone had leaked footage from backstage-infiltered audio of Joy accusing Jennifer of being used. The audio also captured a quiet voice unidentified saying, "She's off script. Shut it down." Alice's assistant came running in. "Someone's following us." Alice looked out the window. A black SUV parked 2 blocks away. "Didn't move. Same one from the studio last night." "Pull her offline," Alice said. "We can't find her." "What?" She turned off her phone, told the driver to reroute. "She's gone." At a small studio apartment in Brooklyn, Dale Vargas, independent journalist and former war correspondent, watched the clip for the 50th time. He knew that name collapse protocol. He'd chased rumors of it for years. Psychological. Warfare through media. Disinformation layered so deep even truth looked fake. Jennifer Lawrence, of all people, had tripped the wire. He opened an encrypted folder on his laptop. Inside, files marked Operation Signal internal documents leaked from a 2019 military intelligence breach. One memo referenced an unnamed actress whose media work aligned suspiciously with controlled social influence campaigns. Vargas leaned back. No way. He opened another file. Project Backers. A name jumped out. Delos Strategic Fund, the same hedge fund that had backed Jennifer's film. He made a call. Somewhere in Washington, D.C., Joy Behar sat alone in her dressing room. She stared at her reflection. She'd always enjoyed a good fight. That was part of her brand. But yesterday had felt different. After the show, 2 men, in suits not producers, not network, had pulled her aside, told her not to elaborate on the Moldova reference, warned her this wasn't a network problem, it was a national one. Then they handed her a sealed envelope and walked out. Inside, a photo, a blurry black and white image of Jennifer Lawrence, but not recent, from a surveillance camera, a basement, talking to someone whose face was redacted. Dated 6 months. Before filming began, Joy picked up her phone. 2. Jennifer Lawrence subject. "We need to talk" message. "I didn't know either. I used both of us. Please, be careful." She hit send. Then she shut her phone off. Jennifer stood alone at a highway gas station in Kentucky, hoodie up, hair pulled back, no makeup. She held a burner phone in one hand and a map in the other. She hadn't used a real credit card in 12 hours. She was heading somewhere no one would expect. Not to a safe house. Not to a lawyer. But to the only person who might understand what she'd just walked into. Her grandfather's oldest friend, retired professor, who once worked in psychological warfare programs during the Cold War, the same man who warned her years ago that Hollywood wasn't just entertainment, that it had always been a weapon. She got into a dusty pickup truck and started the engine. Somewhere far above her, a satellite camera adjusted its lens. Tracking, watching, recording. The protocol had been activated. The truck rumbled through the back roads of Kentucky, dust swirling in the rear view. Jennifer kept her eyes on the narrow road ahead, headlights cutting through the early morning fog. Her fingers tightened on the steering wheel every time a cell phone tower came into view. She didn't trust signals anymore. She didn't trust much of anything. The contact she was driving to, Professor Howard Kessler, had once worked in a CIA division called Cultural Influence Operations, retired, discredited, labeled paranoid. But Jennifer remembered his warnings over Thanksgiving dinners. If you become famous enough, you stop being a person. You become a tool. Back then, she had laughed. Oh, she wasn't laughing. In Brooklyn, Dale Vargas uploaded an encrypted folder to a hidden drive. Inside, financial ledgers connecting Delos Strategic Fund to front companies in Eastern Europe. He had traced them to a defunct paramilitary group contracted during the 2017 Moldova operation. This same group rumored to have disappeared, a civilian scientist who'd built a psychological manipulation Model 1 that could be used through film, social media, and organic celebrity narratives. Dale took a deep breath and hit send. The file was going to an old friend at Al Jazeera Investigates. If something happened to him, they'd know where to look. But as soon as the file uploaded, his screen went black. Seconds later, his apartment lights flickered. Power out. Someone was inside the building. In D.C., Joy Behar walked into her network's legal office unannounced. She demanded to see the contract writer from Jennifer's segment, the one producers wouldn't show her yesterday. The receptionist tried to stall. Joy pushed past. When she finally got the document, her face strained. It's buried in fine print. A clause giving Delos Media Consultancy final cut rights to footage. From the segment, a clause she had never seen. Clause that bypassed network editorial policy. Joy sat down, hands shaking. She hadn't just provoked Jennifer. She'd triggered something. Jennifer arrived at the edge of a forest just after sunrise. Kessler's cabin was off-grid solar panels, rainwater collection, no Wi-Fi, just a radio tower from the 70s and stacks of dusty books. He opened the door slowly, thick glasses, graying beard. No surprise in his eyes. "I saw the clip," he said. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Jennifer stepped inside. "They're saying I'm having a breakdown," she said. "That I lost it live." But it wasn't just Joy. Someone backstage, someone I didn't see, said I was off script, that they needed to shut it down. Kessler poured her tea. "It means you weren't just talent anymore," he said. "You became a risk." Jennifer sat. "What is collapse protocol? What was that 2017 operation about?" Kessler's smile faded. He pulled a dusty file from a locked cabinet. Collapse was a contingency designed by private intelligence firms after the Snowden leaks. The idea was, if public trust in government collapses, you don't fight the panic, you guide it, shape it, turn the outrage into controlled fire. He flipped open the file. Inside, grainy photos of protesters. Charts linking emotional reaction. Cycles to specific content types. They tested it in Moldova. A village vanished. Officially a flood. Unofficially mass relocation after a false flag riot turned into a real rebellion. Jennifer's voice cracked. "And my film?" He looked at her gently. "You didn't write collapse, but someone fed your team enough breadcrumbs to mimic it. Delos knew your film would resonate emotionally. They let it happen, amplified it. All they needed was a spark." Jennifer stood up, hands on her head. "So I've been a puppet." Kessler shook his head. "Not a puppet, a symbol. You went off script. Now they don't know what you'll do next. That scares them." Jennifer paced. "I need to expose them." Kessler sighed. You'll need evidence, proof the funding was coordinated, that someone in intelligence greenlit the content for mass influence. Otherwise, they'll call you unstable, dangerous, maybe even traitorous. He handed her a key to a storage unit in Nashville. It belonged to a whistleblower, journalist named Grace Leanne. She died in a car crash in 2018, but I think she left something behind. Meanwhile, in a van parked down the road, two men sat watching Jennifer through binoculars. One held a tablet, her live GPS, ping spoofed, then reconnected. They had her. She's headed to Nashville, one said. Should we intercept? The other man didn't look up. No. Let her run a little further. She's leading us to what we couldn't find. He tapped a button on the tablet, marking her route in red. Collapse isn't just about controlling stories, he muttered. It's about erasing the ones that can break the system. Back at the cabin, Jennifer and Kessler loaded the truck. Somewhere in the dark. The next move had already begun. The reckoning, the storage unit, was buried in a forgotten corner of Nashville's industrial zone. Boxed between an abandoned rail yard and a weed-choked fence line. Jennifer parked the truck under a broken streetlight. Early evening, no visible cameras. She pulled her hoodie low and approached the rusted roll-up door marked C-17. The key slid in rough. The lock clicked open. Inside, it smelled like dust, metal, and old secrets. Rows of crates, stacks of labeled folders, VHS tapes, hard drives. Newspaper clippings tacked to a corkboard with red strings connecting photos of military men, foreign protests, obscure actors, and her, Jennifer Lawrence, smiling in a film still from a 2014 awards show. Connected by string to a logo, Delos Strategic Fund. She stepped back. Her hand trembled. This wasn't just about her latest film. This had started years ago. In Brooklyn, Dale Vargas wasn't dead, but he was off-grid. He'd escaped through the fire stairs, left his phone behind, and disappeared into the subway system. A burner laptop now sat open in a 24-hour laundromat. He wore a hoodie and surgical mask, blending into the midnight crowd. He uploaded his next file, Collapse Protocol, Draft 0. In it was a PDF, dated 2016, created by a Delos contractor, titled Narrative Warfare Through Celebrity Infrastructure. It outlined a plan to influence public behavior by blending fictional trauma with real-world distrust. Media figures, especially actors, were rated on their emotional reach. Jennifer ranked in the top 5. The plan called her an ideal, unknowing vessel. Dale stared at the last line. In the event of noncompliance, public discreditation and psychological collapse should be triggered through coordinated narrative shock. He leaned back, whispering, they were going to destroy her if she resisted. Back in Nashville, Jennifer flipped through a box marked Leanne 04. Inside, handwritten notes from Grace Leanne, the whistleblower journalist. Descriptions of meetings with a military contractor who claimed movies were used to beta test public. Reactions to stress, narratives, terrorism, corruption, social collapse. Fictional, but close enough to real events to confuse the population. A term appeared over and over in the notes. Soft redaction. Kessler, standing beside her, explained. Soft redaction means erasing the truth, not by deleting it, but by burying it under so much noise that no one knows what to believe anymore. Jennifer whispered, that's what they did to me. Suddenly, headlights swept across the metal wall. She froze. Kessler peered through the door crack. Black SUV. 2 men, suppressors drawn. Jennifer grabbed the hard drives and photos. We have to go. He nodded through the back. They slipped out a side door just as the SUV doors opened. Men in dark tactical gear entered. One held up a thermal scanner. He pointed to the boxes. They were just here. 10 minutes later, Jennifer and Kessler were speeding through side streets. Jennifer's phone vibrated. She stared. At the screen, new message, unknown sender, they know about the storage unit. You have 2 hours before the trail is sanitized. Upload what you have. Don't trust anyone except Dale Vargas." J.L. Kessler frowned. "Who's J.L.?" Jennifer looked pale. "That's Grace Leanne's initials. Cross the country in a secure government war room." A red alert flashed. Across a console, an authorized file transfer detected code Delta Raven. The man with the stubble, the one who had whispered, "She knows," stood slowly. "Activate Echo Protocol." A younger agent hesitated. "That will make her a national threat on every network." "Exactly," he replied. "She's gone rogue. That's what we want the world to believe." Within an hour, Jennifer's face was all over the news. Breaking. Jennifer Lawrence missing after alleged breakdown. Possible mental health crisis. Sources say the Oscar winner may be in possession of classified material. A CNN analyst speculated she had been radicalized by anti-government conspiracy theorists. A political commentator called her Hollywood Snowden. Her name had become dangerous. In a safe house borrowed from one of Kessler's old colleagues, Jennifer and Dale finally met face to face. He handed her a thumb drive. "This has everything. Collapse protocol. Financial trails. Psychological models. Everything they used. To turn you into a product hand, what they planned to do once you stopped playing along." Jennifer nodded slowly. "We leak it all." Dale hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Once it's out, there's no going back. They'll turn everything on you. They'll paint you as unstable, reckless, maybe even treasonous." Jennifer met his eyes. "Then let them. I'd rather be hunted for the truth than live as a lie." Somewhere deep beneath the Capitol, a red phone rang. A voice on the other end said just 5 words. "Lawrence has gone full collapse." And the war for the narrative began. The broadcast the warehouse in Baltimore was barely wired for power, let alone global broadcasting. But Kessler's contacts, old university radicals, turned digital ghostmakers, had transformed the place into a temporary war room. Inside, Jennifer stood at the center of a chaotic circle of monitors, cables, routers, and laptops. On screen after screen, timelines, documents, redacted memos. And most damning of Alan Turner-Dello's recordings obtained from Grace Leanne's storage. The files showed clear orchestration, public opinion modeling, funding pipelines from intelligence adjacent NGOs, and AI-generated scripts meant to guide celebrities toward emotionally resonant dissent. And Jennifer was the top test case. "This can't be a leak," she said firmly. "Leaks can be spun. This needs to be a story. It's with my face on it. My voice. My words." Dale nodded. "We stream it. Direct. No middlemen, no network. Just you and the truth. But once you're live, they'll trace it within minutes." Jennifer stepped into the dimly lit frame. No makeup, no stylist. It's just the tension in her jaw and the fire behind her eyes. I'm counting on it. It's 3,000 miles away. At Dellis's Silicon Valley command suite, alarms flared. A red indicator blinked on a screen reading. JL Asset reacquired public channel. A technician turned to the director. "She's broadcasting on independent relays. Can't shut her down immediately. Then drown her." The director snapped. "Push the meltdown narrative. Flood the feeds." And so the media war began. Jennifer's stream went live across dozens of mirror sites. She stared into the camera, steady. "My name is Jennifer Lawrence. You know me as an actress? But today, I am not acting. I am not selling a film. I am here to tell you something that I didn't want to believe either. I was used. Not by a director or a producer, but by a coordinated network that includes private intelligence contractors, media conglomerates, and policy shapers." She held up Adelo's memo. The camera zoomed in. This document describes a strategy called Collapse Protocol. Its goal is to create controlled public distrust to destabilize citizens just enough to keep them angry, divided, and easy to steer. Through entertainment, through social movements, through faces like mine. As she spoke, #JenniferTruth, hashtag collapse protocol, and hashtag redacted stars surged on X, TikTok, and Reddit. The feed jumped to an internal Delos voice log. Push her into the public trust zone, then fracture it. Let her become the rebellion before we own it. Back on camera, Jennifer's voice shook but didn't break. They knew my past, my family's background. They knew I had relatives who once fought for justice, and they used it, fed it into scripts, into interviews, till I stopped being a person and became their message. She paused, and when I stepped off script, they tried to erase me. In newsrooms from Doha to Berlin, editors scrambled. CNN cut to a legal analyst. Al Jazeera's midnight desk dropped everything to begin real-time translation. MSNBC ran her stream in split screen, while analysts debated if it was real or well-coordinated disinformation. The White House issued a vague statement within 15 minutes. We take any claim of systemic manipulation seriously. But at this time, there is no verified evidence of wrongdoing. Translation: stall the fire until we can smother it. Back in the warehouse, Dale watched as traffic surged. Over 1 million viewers. Then 2, then 5. But the firewall alerts started stacking up. They're inside, he warned. We've got 5 minutes, tops. Jennifer wrapped her message quickly. Not asking you to believe me. Asking you to look. Read the documents, watch the clips. Ask why they fear this message so much they'd rather discredit me than answer a single question. She stared into the camera. This is not about me. It's about all of us. Then Dale hit the failsafe, a timed archive drop. Dozens of journalists received encrypted dumps simultaneously. Some ignored it. Others didn't. At the New York Times, a senior editor leaned back, jaw clenched, watching the stream freeze. She just changed the narrative, he said. Okay? Now we either chase it or bury it. Within hours, reactions polarized. Fox called her mentally fragile. HBO offered to buy the footage. Reuters launched an internal investigation. X and YouTube began throttling links, but the files were out, in thousands of inboxes, on torrents, on dark forums. Mirrors popped up as fast as they were taken down. Jennifer's face had become a symbol half warning, half wildfire. In the shadows of Langley, 2 agents watched the aftershock unfold. One said, "Do we pull Echo Black?" The other shook his head. "No, that makes her a martyr. Let the public tear her apart. Half of them will think she's crazy. The other half will burn everything down." And in a low voice, he added, "Either way, we win." Jennifer stepped outside into the cool Baltimore night, exhausted. The stream had ended, but the real storm was beginning. Kessler handed her a burner phone. Press play. A video popped up, grainy, time-stamped from 5 years ago. It showed a younger Jennifer, unaware she was being filmed in a government lobby. Standing beside her was a man in a military jacket, the same man who had appeared in Grace Leanne's notes. Below the video, a message: "Your past is the next battlefield." Jennifer whispered, "They're not done." And somewhere, in a vault of secrets, another plan was already unfolding. The exposure they found shelter in a crumbling safe house outside Pittsburgh. Once used by underground journalists during the Snowden leaks. Concrete walls, no windows. Just dead air and flickering backup generators. Inside, Jennifer sat on a folding chair, a single lamp overhead casting long shadows. Her face was pale, her voice quiet. "I thought telling the truth would be enough." Dale glanced at the screen. It was never about the truth. It's about who controls it. The collapse protocol files were out, but the world didn't. Collapse it fractured. Cable networks now debated her mental state. Anonymous officials claimed she'd been emotionally unstable for years. A tabloid said she was under psychiatric evaluation in a secret European facility. And yet people were watching. Millions had downloaded the files. Hacktivist groups started decrypting buried code in the document's hidden references to real international operations, Venezuela, Myanmar, Ukraine, and a chilling term, Nightingale phase. Jennifer looked up. What is Nightingale? Kessler answered without hesitation. The final phase, psychological isolation of a target through media saturation. They drown you in so much noise that even your allies start to question you. Jennifer stared at him. You mean even people like you? He didn't answer. Back in Washington, a special intelligence task force had been convened under emergency protocol. The agenda: containment of cultural spillover. A bald man in a navy suit led the room. On screen behind him, Jennifer's face, grainy, from the warehouse broadcast. Below it, a classified document label. Unstable narrative vector JL0096. She's no longer a person, the man said coldly. She's a symbol. And if we don't collapse that symbol, we lose control of the cultural field. An agent raised a hand. Do we have permission for Phase Red? The man paused. We'll give the press one more shot to discredit her if it fails. Yes, Phase Red. Meanwhile, in a small cafe in Toronto, an independent journalist named Annika Roy cracked open the last of the encrypted files. She was one of the few who believed Jennifer. And what she found changed everything. It was a Delos audio log. A man, possibly a program architect, talking to a woman. Doesn't? No, her father was part of the project. That's the irony. They thought using his name would shield her, but it made her the perfect Trojan horse. Annika sat back, stunned. Jennifer's father had served in a U.S. military psychological operations unit in the early 2000s. He had died in what the Pentagon called a training accident. But this file suggested he'd been part of the first collapse prototype years before his death. She emailed the file to one address, collapse.network@protonmail.com at the safe house. Dale read the message aloud. Jennifer froze. They used my own family. Kessler looked away. She stood slowly, fury rising beneath the fatigue. This isn't just about media control. It's generational. It's genetic. They've been watching me since I was a child. She turned to Dale. We can't keep reacting. We hit them first. He nodded. How? We show them what fear looks like when it speaks calmly, live, and without apology. The next plan was reckless. It had to be. They would crash a major political event. Live, unfiltered, global. The upcoming Global Culture and Democracy Forum in Geneva. Heads of state, media moguls, UN officials would be broadcast across the world. Jennifer would walk in and speak the truth in front of everyone. Uninvited, unstoppable. They'll arrest you, Dale warned. Jennifer nodded. That's the point. If they silence me, live, the world sees the lie unfold in real time. The journey to Geneva was dangerous. They changed cars 5 times. Slept in safe houses run by ex-intelligence dropouts and disillusioned diplomats. At every stop, Jennifer rehearsed her speech. Not too angry, not too broken. Just enough. Truth to shake the structure but not make it collapse. Kessler got them fake UN credentials. Dale hacked the floor badge system. Annika, the journalist, flew ahead to prepare a live stream off-grid satellite-linked, untraceable. On the morning of the forum, Jennifer walked through the security gate. Nobody noticed her. Not yet. Inside, the hall was all glass and chrome. Sunlight bouncing off marble and steel. World leaders chatted under the banners of democracy. The reckoning. The Geneva auditorium descended into chaos. Security surged forward, but not fast enough. By the time they reached her, Jennifer had already finished. The stream, now mirrored across thousands of servers, was unstoppable. The moment a Hollywood star standing alone in front of global leaders, exposing the system live, was burned into every screen, every timeline, every consciousness. As they pulled her from the stage, she didn't scream. She didn't resist. She only whispered into the mic still clipped to her collar. You can silence me, but not the signal. Backstage, a United Nations aide stared at the stream on his phone, hands shaking. He'd watched the files, seen the proof. He looked at the Secretary General, who stood frozen at the edge of the stage. "Sir, we have to respond." The Secretary General's voice was low. "We're not the ones in control anymore." Jennifer was placed in a blacked-out vehicle. No badge, no warrant, no destination. Dale and Kessler had disappeared. In the chaos, the convoy headed east into the Swiss Alps, following a protocol known only to the highest echelon of the intelligence community. But they didn't know one thing. Jennifer had activated the failsafe as the car sped through winding mountain roads somewhere in Iceland. Annika Roy released Nightingale Protocol, Final Archive. It wasn't just documents this time. It was everything. Names, locations, emails, covert funding ledgers, dative, manipulation patterns used on journalists and political candidates. Even recruitment footage from early collapse protocol trials. And worst of all, footage of Project Delphi, a program not just about media control, but psychological sculpting, selecting promising children from military and elite families, slowly nudging their identity over decades until they could be deployed into culture with plausible deniability. Jennifer Lawrence had been one of them. She hadn't just been used, she had been built. The world reeled. #Delphiles flooded X. The Jennifer conspiracy was no longer a theory. It was a record. World leaders scrambled to distance themselves. A dozen intelligence directors resigned within 24 hours. Delos International's board dissolved. Whistleblowers stepped forward. Networks that had ridiculed Jennifer just days before now played her Geneva speech in full, uncensored. But the response was divided. Some saw her as a messiah. Others called her dangerous, a fabricated icon weaponized by chaos. Cities saw protests and vigils in equal measure. Truth had shattered the mirror, but not everyone liked what they saw in the shards. Jennifer was held for 3 days. She never spoke. Then, without explanation, she was released at the edge of a private Swiss airstrip. No charges, no trial. It's just a silent agreement from unseen forces. You've already won. And we've already lost too much. Waiting for her was Dale. "How did you find me?" He smiled grimly. "They let me. They want you out. Off-grid, gone." She nodded. "That's fine." He handed her a sat phone. "It's one signal, one message. When you're ready." 6 months later, the world looked different. The Delos leaks had triggered multiple hearings. Investigations into legacy media. Ties with intelligence operations deepened. A new transparency bill had passed in the EU. Cultural trust in celebrity-endorsed causes had eroded. Jennifer was nowhere. Rumors said she was in Iceland. Others claimed Patagonia. A conspiracy subreddit insisted she had joined an underground network of media exiles rewriting history in encrypted clouds. And then, one morning, a signal went out, a single frame, black screen, white text. "She's not the story. You are." It ended with coordinates. Journalists, activists, and citizens across the world followed them. What they found wasn't Jennifer, but a vault. A digital archive housing all the research behind Collapse Protocol, Delphi, and the cultural manipulation industry. It was called the Signal Repository. And it was free, open source, uncensored. A global reckoning had begun, not just with governments, but with the very idea of truth. In a quiet cabin on a windswept coastline, Jennifer watched from afar. She was no longer angry, just awake. She turned off the screen, stepped outside into the snow, and whispered to herself, "They built me to control the world. But all I ever wanted was to set it free." And then she vanished into the white. No more broadcasts, no more scripts. Just the echo of a voice that refused to stay silent. And the world, finally, listening.